it's time for Streaming Idiots. It's Tom Sinclair, your chief idiot, coming to you with a very special guest in the studio today. You're going to want to hang around. This is the church streaming guy. So hang around. We'll be right back. Hey folks, Tom Sinclair here. So glad to be with you today. And I'm really tickled about our guest. I mean, it's not every day that we get a guest that is so perfectly matched for his field. Just astounding. But we're going to get to Paul Allen Clifford in just a second. If you're watching us for the first time, welcome. Streaming Idiots, our new show, just getting started. We're talking about live streaming, everything to do with live streaming, whether it's hardware, software, audio equipment, streaming, CDNs, whatever it might be. We're going to talk and touch on it sooner or later. Sometimes we have product demonstrations. Sometimes we have technology issues that we have to straighten out. We show you how we do it. The idea is that I'm going to make a lot of these mistakes, and some of them I probably will make live, so that you don't have to, so that you can, hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and not have to repeat the same troubles that I've created. So that's the goal of the show. We're live every Wednesday, about 3:45 in the afternoon, Eastern Time, U.S. We're in Daylight Savings Time now. And then we're available on YouTube after that. So if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and you'll get a notice of our shows. But I want to bring our guest in today before I get too far afield from everything. And Paul, welcome. Glad to have you on the show with us today.
Well, glad to be here, Tom. Thanks a lot for having me.
Paul is the proprietor of Trinity Digital Media up there in Kentucky, and they do all things media for churches. Is that a pretty good description, Paul?
I think that's exactly the way that I'd put it.
Pretty nebulous. But how in the world did you get into the whole church media business? I mean, somebody knock on your door one day and say, "We'd like you to come fix stuff at our church." I mean, where did it come from?
Yeah, so in the first show I talked a little bit about this, but basically it all started when I was in seminary, which is graduate school. I have a Master's of Divinity, and in addition to studying first century Greek manuscripts written on papyrus, I was also studying technology, and that was something that I just thought was a funny thing that I'd like to do. I didn't think it was actually useful for what I was meant to do in my life. So with that said, I took this class and I just found that I loved every piece of it. I was doing my homework early. I was just diving in and finding that I could be useful in this area, which I was much better at than the pastoral care or the counseling or the other areas that are more traditionally church-oriented. So that's where it got started, and I've just been going at it hard and heavy since 2000, basically. So I took the class that got me started back then, and I just dove in head first, and I've been going ever since.
I mean, it was just kind of like a lightning bolt where you just said, aha, this is so cool. Yeah.
That's it exactly.
Oh, man. And so not only, I mean, I think Paul's being kind of modest here, but not only that, not only did he get into it, but he's written books on it. He does weekly shows on it. I mean, in fact, Paul, you're even working on a new book now. Well, you were saying in pre-show that the book has kind of been somewhat shelved for the moment, that you kind of write these books in spurts. But you're writing a book on live streaming. Right.
So one of the things that I don't think I mentioned in the first show is that I do some freelance writing for Church Production Magazine, which is one of the two magazines that deals with using technology in the church. I've also written for the other one, but Church Production is kind of the bigger of the two. And my beat, the thing that I cover, is live streaming. So I've talked all about how there was a discussion I got into online where someone said, well, how do you keep people from going to your live stream instead of going to your church live? And so we talked a little bit about that. There was another discussion where someone said, well, we found out that so-and-so had an EPO out, and the guy that was trying to do some harm to her noticed that she was at our church, and that could have ended poorly. How do we deal with that? So I deal with some of the technical things, like getting the best audio, and some of the not-so-technical things, like the philosophy behind it all.
Gotcha. Oh, so this is going to be for folks that are starting from zero, really, and they want to put it together. They want to make sure they cover all the bases. They want to get they want to care for their congregation. They don't want to expose somebody that doesn't want to be exposed. Obviously, if they're in a witness protection program or something like that.
Right.
And they want to. They don't want to waste a lot of money going down the wrong path, because that's what a vendor says is best for them. Because you certainly can spend a chunk of money on vendors' equipment to find out later it's not exactly what you needed. In fact, it's nowhere close to what you needed. Now, you're a Mac guy. Is this written from a Mac perspective, or is it written from a technology agnostic perspective?
Well, as much as possible, I recognize that some churches and people in general prefer the Mac, some prefer the PC. I actually started out as a PC guy up until Windows 98, so that's how far back I'm talking. And then I switched over to the Mac. So I'm always looking for ways to use both, and I think that there are advantages to each platform. I prefer the one that I use, but really they're all tools. So it's like saying, well, do you prefer Stanley or Craftsman?
Yeah.
Well, it depends.
Although Windows 98 about did me in, yeah. That almost made me switch over too. Now the other books that you've got include one on Twitter, one on podcasting, a book called Church Video School, and then a book called the Serving Church. So it sounds like somebody could sit down and go through the library of the Paul Allen Clifford books and come up with a great technology background on how to do tech in their church. Is that a safe statement?
Well, I hope so. My idea is that I want to be a resource for churches, no matter where they are in using technology.
Right.
Beyond we're using air conditioning, that's technology, isn't it? Well, technically, yes, but let's step a couple of steps beyond that. So churches that want to get into the 21st century and they're really just not quite sure how to start. So you can get started on Twitter, for example, for free. Right. So, don't let money be a hindrance there. You can do a video ministry very inexpensively now. When I was in seminary, we used to say, well, how much did your organ cost? And now we can say, okay, for less than having a part-time staff member for part of a year, you can get a really nice system. Uh-huh. So it's come a long way.
Indeed. And I mean, it's reachable for virtually every congregation.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
At some level. Yeah. Now, in addition to the books that you've written, you've also got a wealth of resources of broadcasts that you've made over the years, and you do a live broadcast. No, you do more than one live broadcast every week.
Yeah, four.
Four. Only four. No, only four.
Yeah, just four. So, Tom, I don't know if you've heard of Twit, This Week in Tech, over at twit.tv. They do live streaming of technology stuff.
Every now and then I watch that. Not very often. Yeah.
So, kind of my idea was, I really hate stuff that's made just for the church that doesn't need to be. Like there's a YouTube ripoff for churches. I think that's unnecessary.
Huh.
But there are situations where there are special needs of a church, and that's what I want to be. I want to be someone who addresses the special needs of churches, not that just throws God at the beginning of my URL and hopes that people that are afraid of movies come find it. I don't want to be like crazy, but I think that it's I think that there's an opportunity for people that just really, really want to reach out to share the message of hope that the church has with others. And I guess it comes down to the fact that there was a time when I was the only person in my church that knew certain things, and it just really got on my last nerve that if something were to happen to me, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So I could have been hit by a bus. Heck, my car could have even broken down and gotten me there later than I wanted to be. So, anything could have happened, and no one else could have done it. Well, on a larger scope, I don't want that to be what technology in the church is like. I don't want churches to say, man, I really wish I could do live streaming, but I don't know how to start. Let me help you. Or, I really wish I understood that social media stuff, but I don't get it. Well, let me help you. I just want to be a resource to help people. And so that's why I keep doing this like crazy and tirelessly over these last few years.
I tell you what, folks, if you follow Paul on Twitter, you will get tweets about all sorts of stuff. And I've been following Paul, I don't know, maybe a year. It's hard to say when you start doing kind of that stuff. And his stuff has been the stuff that sort of crept up on me, just snuck up on me. And before I realized it, I was, Paul would post a tweet about a video that he had put up or something that he thought was important. And I was looking for his tweets. I would scan through my tweets to say, okay, what's Paul up to today? Because he's always got something interesting. Now, there's things that I'm not interested in because Paul is doing such a wide spectrum of stuff within the church digital ministry, within technology and churches, and I'm not interested in all of it. I'm just interested in the streaming part of it. But, when he announced, what was it? I guess it was about the live streaming book that you've got coming out that's, kind of in the works. I'm like, I can't wait to see this. I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to see what I'm doing wrong. Now I can fix it. But you've got the Monday show that's Tech Help for Churches, and that's 11 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock on the West Coast. And that's a live show?
Right.
And is that a call-in show, or do you have a chat room where folks can ask questions, or how does that work?
I have a chat room where folks can ask questions. I tend to answer all the questions on Friday. I'll get those together from wherever they came from.
Okay.
Whether it's Twitter, email, a comment on my site, a comment on my YouTube, any of those. And I answer usually around 3 of them every week. But if there's something in-depth that's specific to a particular show, then I'll answer that on that particular show. But,
gotcha.
So that's what I do. I do have a chat room, and I just really love interacting with people and sharing the stuff that I've picked up over the years. I don't think that there's anything special about me per se. It's just that for some reason
Folks,
I'm
he's
made
being
so
modest.
that I love.
He's being modest. He's being. I've been watching and listening to this guy far too long. This guy is a rare talent And if you have the opportunity to work with him, you need to take advantage of it.
You're turning me pink.
Well, let me say that because obviously you won't do it. Paul is a tremendous resource to the church. And when I say church, I'm talking about the Big C church. That is the body of all believers. And I don't think from Paul's perspective it matters to you. It matters whether you're Catholic or Baptist or anything in between. Not that Catholic and Baptists are the opposite end of the spectrum, but just in terms of the whole spectrum of all the different flavors of Christians out there, I think Paul would love to work with you and help you guys achieve the goals that you want. Because that's working towards the kingdom, and that's what we're all about, is the kingdom, regardless of what brand we might be carrying. We all want to score touchdowns. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a theological mutt, too. So I grew up Baptist. I've worshipped in Roman Catholic churches, and once in England at the church, in the Church of England, an Anglican denomination. But so I went to a Methodist seminary, and right now I'm part of a Christian and Missionary Alliance church. So as long as
well-rounded,
I am well-rounded. As long as your church is one where you're either Catholic or Protestant, I think that we can work together in any of the flavors, whether you think of yourself as mainline, high church, low church, praise and worship, heck, even if you do DJ-led worship, or you have a rapper that gets up there. I've been a part of some of that, and it's all, to me, it's all art, and it's all a way to express what's going on deep inside of you, and I think that that's worth applauding and worth getting out there.
Yep. Me too. Good stuff. Tell us a little bit about you're doing a live show, and or live shows, excuse me, 4 of them. And tell us a little bit about your setup there. You've got a studio in your home. We can see the camera you're using is so good I can just about read the titles on the books on the shelf behind you. Tell us what about your cam and about your mics and about your mixer and all your whole setup.
Yeah, so it's a Logitech C. I don't think it's the 920. I'm blanking on the number. I can't remember numbers to save my life. I'm not great at everything. But it's one of the 1080p Logitech cameras.
Okay.
So that's my camera. I've got that on a little bitty tripod, and that's what I use visually for live streaming, coming into my mid-2010 MacBook Pro, and I tend to stream with Wirecast. I've used Flash Media Live Encoder, but I love the flexibility of Wirecast because, you can basically do stuff like a video switcher, and although I prefer to have maybe a Blackmagic Design television studio to use, that's just not in my budget right now. So we're going with what we got. So that's from a video standpoint. From an audio standpoint, I have a little cable that takes an XLR and it turns that into the tip ring sleeve plug, similar to what you find on a smartphone. This particular MacBook Pro only has one port for audio, so it uses basically the same port as a smartphone, and so I use that to put either this Behringer microphone that I'm using, or I typically use this Audio-Technica Pro 70 wired lavalier, just so that I don't accidentally hit the mic. I'm just about to hit it as I'm gesturing with my hand, so I have to be extra careful. I'm a hand talker, as you can tell. So I've got a bit of a do-it-yourself light kit going. If I were to slide over to the side, you can't see it that direction. There you go. You see my backlight.
Oh, yeah.
Behind me. I've got an LED. Here, let me try and make So you can see it off to this side. I've got a little LED lamp on my desk for my fill light, and I've got a softbox on the other side for my key light. So I don't think that you can let budget, although I do have a nice light kit, it's just very hot, so I don't use that here inside the studio unless I'm doing some stuff against a white wall, which I also have over there. But so that's what I'm using basically. Right now, I've got my audio coming into an old Tascam M35 mixer that I actually rescued from the dumpster when I was in seminary. It's a big honking thing that a nice Behringer little bitty mixing desk would replace nowadays, but this was free, so it works.
I'm all about free. Yes, indeed. Inexpensive is the name of the game, especially when you're starting out. For somebody to go write a check with a comma in it when you're first starting out, and you don't know if you're going to stay in this, you don't know if you're going to go one direction or another direction. Buy disposable equipment. Buy somebody else's cast off. Find what you can for next to nothing. Yeah, I mean, we were talking in the other segment. You know, when I started out, I was looking for a microphone, and I found a Behringer on eBay for, I don't know, $2 or $3, $4, maybe $5. It wasn't a lot. I thought, I mean, you know, I didn't know anything about mics. And then I saw somebody that was selling some that buy two, get one free. And I thought, well, that's great. That'll give me two, one for each announcer and then a spare. And then I saw somebody that had a case of them that was selling for, golly, I don't know, you know, maybe $80 for 200 of them. So I risked it and bought the case, and turned out there were over 300 of them in there, and resold them and used that to fund my very first streaming PC. And so they're just, you know, you just never know how you're going to get into the business and what you're going to find. And sometimes you make good decisions up front, and those decisions carry you through. And you know, whether it's a camera or a mic or a mixing board or whatever, or you get into a software vein, like I know you're a big ProPresenter guy, and you get into something like ProPresenter, and you start out with the low ones, and then you just work your way through, and as they have the updates, you stay with it, and it ends up being something that you're intimately familiar with. You like ProPresenter a whole lot for a church environment, don't you?
Yeah. So what's funny is I really resisted switching from PowerPoint. And if you don't know, ProPresenter is worship software that does what PowerPoint or Keynote on the Mac does, but it does it better in the specific instance of a church. So if you're doing a presentation in business, you start out with point A and you keep going in line until you're done. When you're dealing with music, live music in specific, the person singing may forget where they're going. And so as not to make them look like a moron or anything, because you don't want to do that. It's usually one of your friends. So in order to make them not look like that, it's better to skip ahead or skip back, depending on where their mind took them to. Well, that's hard with some worship software. It's it's hard with PowerPoint. It's very easy with worship software because you've got a screen that allows you to see the entire song at once. So if they skip from verse 1 to verse 3, you can just click on the first slide in verse 3 and you're back on track. So that's kind of the bare bones of what ProPresenter, Easy Worship, Media Shout, these worship software packages do. But they also play videos. They also do video backgrounds, which is really nice, and a few other things. So I've been using ProPresenter probably since 2006 2006, I want to say, 2007, something like
wow.
that.
Okay.
Yep.
And they had to beat you on the head to get you away from PowerPoint, and once you were away from it, you never looked back.
Yep, exactly.
Wow. Now there's a lesson in that right there. A character lesson. Well, now, in addition to being an author and a broadcaster, you also make yourself available to churches as a technology consultant. Is that? And so if our church were struggling, and let's say we wanted to somehow do something digital with our newsletter, you would have some ideas on that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm in the series right now on my Monday show, Tech Help for Churches, which is all internet-based. So it's all about using the web, social media, new media, that sort of thing. So right now I'm in a series on using email newsletters, which you might know that internet marketers use the heck out of.
Right.
And that's because you may not go to Twitter every day. You may not go to Facebook every day. You may not go to YouTube every day, but you probably check your email at least once a day, and most of us are addicted to it and check it many times a day. So I think that that's a better way of getting your church newsletter out, where someone's bound to check it multiple times a day, than, oh yeah, once a week, we've got a stack of these pieces of paper right by the back door, pick one up on your way.
Well, and our church is probably a good example of folks that are doing a little bit, but not much. Our newsletter is printed and handed out for folks that want it. For folks that live out of town, but still want to stay in touch with the church, they get it by mail. And then the pastor sends me a PDF version of it that I post to the website, so somebody can download it from the website and look at it. But we haven't taken that next step to be more proactive. We're kind of passive. That is, if you want to come get it, you got to go find it. But to be a little bit more, I won't say aggressive, but proactive by providing it where folks can read it at their easiest possibility, which is over the morning coffee when they read their email. I mean, I got an email from you this morning, and I don't remember what the subject line was. I remember it was a 3-word subject line. And I thought it was so personal, whatever it was. I thought it was about you and me talking today on the broadcast. So I opened it up, and then I realized, oh no, this is Paul's newsletter, and
Right.
and just glanced through it and put it aside to read later. But that was a great example of getting the newsletter out there, making it in a way that was easy for me to see and understand. And bam, there it was. There it was. And so you're actually doing a show. Is that part of the Technobabble show on Thursday?
Yeah. So Monday's show, right now I'm in the series about the newsletters.
Oh, Monday's show. Okay.
Yep. And just to let you in the backside, what I've done is, and I talked about it on this past Monday's show, about segmenting your email newsletter list. So a church is an organization. Even if you've got 100 people, there are subgroups. So the choir cares about one thing. Parents of children care about another thing. Parents of teenagers care about another thing. Retired adults care about something else. And they don't all care about the same stuff. So if you know who cares about what, you can tailor the message specifically for them, so that the retired adults that don't have any grandchildren don't see about the Easter egg hunt coming up at Easter in a few weeks. That maybe they don't care about that whatsoever. So you don't necessarily send them that message, but the parents of the elementary school kids really care about that. So you send that to them, and it feels more personal, and they're more likely to open it if they know, okay, every time I open this, there's something I wanted to know about.
Right.
So that's another thing that I'm a big fan of, as opposed to, there's nothing wrong with putting a PDF on your website, but my church has a very frequently updated website. I go there maybe once a month, once every couple of months, because it's not necessarily stuff that I need to know on a daily basis. But my email account, yeah, I was just checking my email a second ago because it comes to my phone. I mean, it's emails everywhere.
Right.
So even though it feels old and antiquated, it's just because we're used to it. So I think that that's a great opportunity, and that's what I'm talking about on the Monday show. On the Tuesday show, I talk about software, in particular ProPresenter, which you mentioned. On the Thursday show, I talk about video and graphic design. So it might be something I'm working through some different ideas on live streaming right now. So I just got over kind of a sub-mini series. That's kind of weird. A sub-mini series on basic video techniques that might be helpful to people that do live streaming in their churches. And then Friday I answer questions, like you said.
Awesome setup. Folks, you can see what a treasure he is. If you want, Paul, if folks want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Probably heading over to trinitydigitalmedia.com, or you can watch the shows live, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Right now it's -4 UTC, I guess, since we just switched to daylight saving time.
Right.
On churchtechcast.com, which you'll see. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at that. Okay, there we go. Right there over my shoulder, churchtechcast.com. And those are just great ways to do it. You can follow me on Twitter, Paul Allen Cliff, PaulAlanclif, or for any members of your audience that would like my free video mini course, I've got that at trinitydigitalmedia.com/Tom Sinclair, just to make it easier.
Whoa! All right.
So,
dude.
So just head over there and you can watch some videos I've put together all about using video, and they're actually a little on the generic side. I've got a person in my mastermind group who's a stand-up comedian that's using the information there. So if that's something that interests you, then by all means, go right ahead.
Awesome. Great. Well, Paul, you are so kind to spend time with us today, and I really do appreciate it. Folks, Paul Allen Clifford, trinitydigitalmedia.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, Paul, have you got a YouTube channel?
I do. If you go to, I've got a bit.ly link for it. Easy for me to remember, bit.ly/PaulTube, PaulTube. So bit.ly/PaulTube will take you to just there, and you can sign up for it and get the automatic announcements from YouTube every time I update and add a video, which is at least 4 days a week, typically.
Gotcha. Great. Well, Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And
anytime.
I hope you'll hang out with us for a little bit of after show here in just a few minutes.
Will do.
Okay, great. All right, folks, what a treat. Paul Allen Clifford from Trinity Digital Media. And you want to keep that handy, trinitydigitalmedia.com. We really appreciate him coming on the show today and sharing with us and making himself available and being faithful to the call too. There's a lot to be said for that. I'm Tom Sinclair, the Streaming Idiot. We appreciate you tuning in today. If I can help you with anything at all, Tom at streamingidiots.com. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Have a great day.